Yeah, sorry I'm a bit late. Yeah, we had a few technical issues and we had to ring up our daughter to find out how to work them out. We're still working them out, but I'm actually on the phone now. So, yeah, welcome along. Hope you've all had a great weekend, and isn't it great to be out there having a bit of a swing, and we had magic weather. So tonight I'll be just talking a little bit about Creswick, because I know Creswick really well, detectors, sourcing some information, mindset, and announcing the winner of the $1,500 prize. So yeah, just keep the questions coming, guys, and yeah, if you can ask some questions, comments tonight, there'll be a chance to win some prizes, and the prizes are a Lucky Strike hat, a Dugstone map, and a small goal pan. Okay. For the people that don't know much about me, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself, how I started. I started when I was about 14. We used to go out to my grandmother's for Sunday lunch, and it was a little place called Barkstead, which a lot of people haven't heard of. And my grandfather used to take me out goal panning around the Eganstown area, which is, what would that be, west of Daylesford. And we used to go into a gully there called Champagne Gully. Anyone who knows it probably don't want me to mention it, but yeah, the reason it was called Champagne Gully, it was because it was very rich and they weren't drinking beer, they were actually drinking champagne, so that's where the name comes from. I got my first detector in 1980, and it actually took me 6 months to find my first piece, which was 3.7 grams, and that's a little piece there. Nice little one. Yeah, lucky I never sold it. So yeah, I've kept that. Yeah, and that was near a place my parents moved from inner Ballarat to a little edge of Ballarat called Brown Hill, which is near Ballarat. And yeah, I remember going down to the creek with the detector, and I started looking for coins and relics. And there was a little bit of surfacing area, and that's, yeah, basically where they've stripped the topsoil away, and it was red clay there. And I went over this red clay and I got another sound, and I thought, oh, it's going to be another bullet. And I dug it up. It was probably only about 4 inches deep, and out popped my first nugget, which was the 3.7 gram nugget. And I remember I was that excited. I jumped on my bike, I rode home to my parents' place and I showed them. And then I rode another 5Ks to work to show me boss. And I remember tipping it out of the film container into a hand. And she looked at me and she said, "Is that all you found?" But to me, it was everything. And, you know, once you find your first piece, unfortunately, you're hooked for life. And that's probably the end of you. So, yeah, that was near Brown Hill there. I spent a lot of hours then in that area and never found another piece, but that's gold for you. But so I started off panning. I got my first detector. Then in 1995, for any of you that remember, the Minelab SD 2000 come out, and that was the big game changer in the industry. And I remember at that stage I was a warehouse manager for Harvey Norman, and I said to the wife, I said, will I quit my job and go full-time on the gold, or will I stay at my job? And she said, well, it's your call. And I thought, oh, job security, I'll stay at my job. But that's one thing I've regretted all my life. I should have went full-time on the gold back then, because the SD2000 was really the first machine that handled the mineralisation. And look, I had mates calling in home and they were showing me, you know, 6 and 10, 20 ounce slugs. And I'd say, where'd you find that? And they'd tell me, and I knew all the spots. And yeah, I should have got stuck into the gold. I really should have. But yeah, I suppose, you know, when we had that was our first child, and you know, you make that decision that I had job security, and yeah, that's it. But, you know, I could have went full-time on the gold and I might not have done any good. It's, yeah, a little bit hard, guys. I'm actually holding the phone out in front of me and talking at the same time. So, yeah. So, look, I remember I had the bug that bad. I was going out before work, I was going out after work, I was going out weekends, and I probably didn't have much of a social life because I had the gold bug really bad. And yeah, I used to go out with a friend. I don't know if you're watching, Ian, but used to go out with a friend, used to pick him up. I had a nice car back then. It was a Mazda RX-7 and it was all lowered and everything, but used to pick him up and we used to go out the bush. And it wasn't unusual back then to, come home with 15, 20 pieces for the day and some nice pieces in amongst that. But what people don't realise was back in 1980, it was a numbers game. There's a lot more rubbish around, but you also got a lot more gold, where in some areas now there's more rubbish around than gold, but that's just the way it was. Never found anything really big in Victoria, but biggest I ever found in Victoria was only a 2.5 ouncer back then, but thousands of pieces. In 1996, I started to head over to WA, and I remember going over with a friend and his dad back then, and I ended up with 5 ounces for 7 weeks, and I could see in WA there was a lot of opportunity. So even before I got home, I was planning to go next year, and I went over with the wife and family, young family at that stage, and Leanne would watch the kids and I'd go out detecting, from 7 to probably 4. And look, the first year I went over with the family, I come home with 21 ounces for 7 weeks, which you might be thinking, oh, that's good money. But back then it was probably only worth about $900 an ounce, but it was still good money. It's, And I remember going, and then we went back the next year after that, and I actually camped on the same spot, but there was lots of rubbish around there, and I got sick of digging rubbish, and I started to work new ground. For people that don't know what new ground is, you've got old ground and new ground. Old ground is basically where the miners have been, and they've dug it up and it's been surfaced, it's been turned upside down, but new ground might be 2-3 k's away from that source. So I started working new ground. I was lucky enough to get onto a patch. I got 8 ounces. And that spot's still producing gold. I've actually got a claim on it. Then I started working another patch, and I was towards end of 15 weeks, which is a lot of time detecting. And at that stage, I was swinging 2200 with an 18-inch double D, and there's a lot of weight in that coil. And it was pretty damn hard work, and I say to people I deserved every ounce I found. But after the 15 weeks, I ended up coming home with 46 ounces. And look, that's been my best year to date over there. The night before we come home, I found a 16-ounce piece, and I'd had enough. And I had 2 friends over there at that stage, and I said, you can finish off the patch, I'm going home, I've had enough. And come home with 46 ounces. The biggest piece I've ever found to date is a 24-ounce piece. I do want to find a 30-ounce piece, and then when I find that 30-ounce piece, I want to go into the 100-ounce club, and there's not too many people that have found the 100-ouncer yet. You might laugh, but one day you'll see me on a paper or in the newspaper, and I'll be showing it off. So, that's, I've got 2 16-ounce, 10s, 8s, a lot of bigger pieces. But I think when you're prospecting, you're always wanting to find a bigger piece. And I suppose that's what keeps us going. In 1990, I started buying gold because I'd found all this gold in WA, and I just wanted a fair price for my gold. And look, I started selling actually on eBay, and I was getting reasonable prices for it back then. But, as some of you know, time you take out your fees and listing fees and that, it sometimes doesn't work out too good, or you get caught. Someone, says that they didn't get it, and they did. Yeah, and we actually still buy gold, and having a shop, you know, people do come in and sell gold, or they'll swap it for merchandise here at Lucky Strike. In 2010, I started doing tours because a lot of people were asking me, oh, can you take me out? Can you take me out? And I thought, well, if I'm going to show me good spots, I'm going to start charging. So that's what I did. And started doing tours in Victoria, then WA, and then I started in New South Wales. But look, I'm still doing tours in Victoria. We do a half day, a full day, 3 day, 5 day, and private tours in Victoria. And then in Western Australia, we do 10-day tag-along tours and set a week and 2 weeks all-inclusive. But unfortunately, this time of the year, I'm generally over there doing tours, and I know some of you are watching tonight and saying, yeah, when are we heading over there? Well, we just don't know what's happening from day to day. So, yeah, we've just got to keep our ears to the ground, and hopefully they'll lift them restrictions and we can still get a few tours in there. In 2017, I opened up the shop called Lucky Strike Gold Prospecting, which is a Minelab dealership in Geelong. And just recently we were voted one of the best shops in Victoria. So, yeah, I'm pleased to announce that. So, yeah. So, look, if you haven't been down, come down and you'll see probably why. Look, it's not just about the great stock we've got in the shop, but I've been collecting like a lot of mining memorabilia. And there's dolly pots and there's lamps and there's pans and there's cradles and all sorts of things in the shop. And, yeah, and I love that history. Now, I'll get into the good stuff. That's probably enough talking about myself. I could go on all night, but I won't. So, look, with detectors, I think you've got to buy the best machine that you can afford at that time. Now, they range from anything from $199 up to $9,500. Now, obviously, the more you pay, the deeper they go. And you need to detect the ground suited for that machine. And I suppose what I mean by that, if you're out there with a $199 machine and you're detecting in a spot where the gold's at least 18 inches, you're not going to get it. And I see a lot of times people detecting in spots, and I've got to pull up and say to them, look, you're wasting your time in this area, you know, go over there and try that spot. And what I mean by that, I might be driving through Slady Creek, which is the other side of Ballarat, and I'll see people detecting in the creek. And there's a lot of silt and gravel within that creek, but the gold's going to be on the bottom of the creek. It's going to roll along on the bottom of the clays and get trapped in crevices or in clay pockets. And the gravel might be 3 foot thick there, so you need a really good machine to pick up them big nuggets that are down at depth. Look, don't get me wrong, I do like detecting in creeks, but I pick out my areas where there's, say, shaly schist going across and the ground's reasonably shallow, or you can see the clay exposed in the creek. And that's where I found a lot of gold in them sort of situations. Slow down. You've heard it all before. Go low and slow. But look, running tours, I remember I took a chap out on a tour. There was a fairly large hill in front of us, and I said to the group, detect around the hill, go nice and slow. And I remember this chap come back to me after about an hour, and he said, I've done that hill, where are we going next? And I just laughed, because they say with a standard coil on a detector, 11-inch coil, about a tennis court a day. That's doubles too, not singles, guys. So, yeah, look, you've got to really be patient and the gold will come. I've seen people, unfortunately, have not a lot of patience detecting. I remember one chap, I was out one day and it was his own machine. It wasn't one that we were hiring out. but I could see him from a distance, and he swearing and cursing the machine, and he took it off his back and he threw it on the ground, and I went over to him and I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "Oh, it's not running right. I can't find any gold." And I helped him out, and he was right for probably another half an hour, and then I looked across and he had it, he took it off his back and actually smashed it around the tree and smashed all the coil and that. And look, at the price that they are, $5,000, that's not something you want to do. So, yeah, just be patient and the gold will come. Look, when I started detecting back in 1980, there was no one around to help me. In fact, I remember I was only, 17 at that stage. So you're probably trying to work out how old I am. I'm, 40, or nearly 57. I was going to say 47, 57. Yeah, I've been detecting for 40 years. But yeah, when I started, people, they didn't want to help because they would say, "Go over there, there's gold, down the road 2Ks. But they just didn't want to help anyone. There was no one around doing tours, or not what I know of. So yeah, I used to ask questions. And look, when my parents lived at Brown Hill, I had a motorbike which was unregistered, but I used to get out the bush, and if I saw someone prospecting or an old timer digging a shaft, I would ask the questions, why are you digging here? And look, some would help and some wouldn't, but don't be scared to ask people questions, when you're out the bush. When you're onto a patch of gold, this is another thing I see a lot. It's more probably in WA. When people find a patch, they run around, try and get the easy noises, and they'll walk away from that patch. Now, I've seen it time and time again where people get a patch, they'll think they've done it, they'll walk away because they've just gone too fast, they've walked away, someone in that tour has come across that's got a little bit more experience, worked that patch, and they've found good gold. And yeah, it just happens. So if you find gold, just please work that patch and clean it out, because there's nothing worse than walking off that patch, I suppose, and seeing someone pull a 2-3 ouncer, and just take your time. I've got notes here in front of me too, guys. I generally don't have notes. Generally when I'm talking to a group, I'm generally fine. But yeah, if you're thinking I'm a little bit nervous, I'll admit I am, because I've got to keep looking at my notes. I'm holding the phone up and it's not easy. So things can only get better from here. Detectors, different settings. Look, you can ask 20 different people. I guarantee it. You'll ask 20 people for settings out the bush, you'll get 20 different answers. The way I set up the machine works for me, and that helps me find gold. But take on board what people are telling you. If it doesn't work for you, have a little bit of a play with some settings, as long as you understand what them settings do, and you might find a happy spot that it suits you. Now, when you start finding gold, they're going to be the best settings ever. And your coil, you find gold, you buy a new coil, you find gold with that coil, you're going to say, "Oh, that's the best coil out," and your confidence is high. And I'll be talking a little bit later on about mindset, because your mind does play a big part in detecting. A lot of people come into the shop and they'll say, "How deep does this detector go? How deep does the other detector go?" Now, with detectors and gold, there's too many variables out there. And what I mean by that, not only is your settings can be variable, it depends on what coil you've got on. It can depend on whether the nugget is a smooth nugget, a rough nugget. It depends on the purity of the gold, whether it's, 80% purity is running 98% purity. It can depend whether it's in mineralised ground or not mineralised ground. There's just too many variables there. So when someone asks me that question, I'll generally say a golf ball sized nugget in average ground, you'll pick it up at this depth. In average ground, you'll pick it up with a 5,000 at this depth, and the 7,000 you'll pick it up with this depth. There's just like I said, too many variables there. When you go out detecting, this is something I used to do in WA, and it works quite well for me. I would go out and work new ground. So I'll go work a spot that there was not a known area, somewhere where people haven't really looked at. If I didn't find any gold by lunchtime, I would go to an area where I know there was gold. And look, generally in WA, they're generally being pushed areas, or it's in creeks or that. And I had to come home with something. So look, and this is how bad I had it. If I got home at night time and it was dark over in WA and I hadn't found a little bit of gold, I would get my headlight on, I would put a small coil on, and I wouldn't come back until I found a piece. But that was my driver. That's what pushed me to the boundaries. And look, my target, this might sound a little bit high, but my target over there was 10 grams a day, and I would work for 6 days a week. But when you were swinging a big coil, I know I was missing out on a lot of smaller bits, but when you get a 10 ouncer or 5 ouncer, that changes everything. And when you get a 16 or 24 ouncer, you're on top of the world. And I remember when I found the 24 ounce bit, it was just out of Kalgoorlie, out near, I suppose I can mention it, Kanowna Way, which is just out of Kalgoorlie. I pulled up in the vehicle. I only probably walked about 10 metres, probably not even that, and I got a very large target. It sounded like a beer can under a bush. And I actually took a step backwards. I thought, nah, it's rubbish. And I thought, oh, no, I better dig it. So I actually dug the target. I didn't dig. I actually scraped 2 inches of sand, and it was still there. And when you're running a big coil, you've got to scrape a fairly large area. So I scraped 2 inches on a fairly large area, and the target was still there. And I scraped another inch, and I saw this blobby thing come up onto the mound. And I thought, oh, someone's playing a bit of a trick on me. It's a bit of painted lead. But it was no lead. It was a 24 ounce piece. And I was detecting by myself, and I had to tell someone. So I drove into Kalgoorlie, and I phoned up the wife, Leanne, and she said to me, how'd you go today? I said, oh, yeah, not too bad. I said, I found a 24. And she said, oh, 24 grammer. She said, oh, that's not a bad day. And I said, no, 24 ouncer. And she went silent. I reckon it seemed like a minute, but it was probably only 10 seconds. And she said, are you joking? I said, no, I'm not joking. I said, I'm on the way home. And all the way home, going across the Nullarbor by myself, it sat on the seat, it sat on the dash, it sat on me legs. I just couldn't believe that I'd found a 24 ouncer. And when you find something like that, you're dumbfounded. That's what you want to find, but when you find it, it comes, it's such a shock. Okay. Any questions over there? Hun?
Oh, sorry. How do we book a tour?
What's that? How do you book a tour? Right. You can go onto the Golden Relics page. Look, I've got, like I said, Lucky Strike Gold Prospecting is the Minelab Garrett shop here in Geelong, and Golden Relics Prospecting Adventures is the tour side of the business. So yeah, go on to Golden Relics Prospecting Adventures onto the website and have a look what it's about. If you've got any questions, just ring the 1300 number there. But unfortunately, I can't take people out to Western Australia yet, but we have just started doing the half-day and one-day tours, which will be a tag along, so you're going to have to follow us in your own car. But right, any more questions?
Just a comment, Stopsy says fill your holes in.
Oh yeah, Stopsy, filled your holes in, and that was actually on the last thing. Now, it takes 5 minutes to dig a hole, and it only takes 5 seconds to kick your dirt back in. Look, I think most people do the right thing out there, but unfortunately, as some of us know, when we're out the bush, there's a lot of holes that aren't filled in. And look, when I'm out on tours, when I'm walking around, if I come across one, I'll just kick the dirt in. And I think most people do the right thing, but there's the odd one that doesn't. Information. It's a good idea to join up with the Prospectors and Miners Association Victoria. They have different branches through Victoria. There's one here in Geelong that meets on they were meeting on the second Monday of every month at 7 o'clock. First Monday of every month. Here at Lucky Strike, I know there's one at Ballarat, there's one in Maryborough, there's one, I think, in... Yes, there is, Bendigo, and yes, there's a few. But yeah, if you look up the Prospectors and Miners Association Victoria, you'll see where the branches are. And yeah, they'll meet and discuss what topics or if there's new products coming out. And generally, on the next weekend, they'll have an outing. So look, and you'll learn, you'll meet good friendships there. And look, I've got friends for life that I've met through the PMAV. So yeah, join up with them guys. I've got here on my list, listen to others. And if someone gives you a bit of advice out the bush, take it in. Don't discard it. Look, there is a little bit of BS sometimes out there, but yeah, just filter it. And it's the same on Facebook. Like, there's people giving genuine helping advice. Yeah, just take it all in. Look, if you go to a place and you're not sure on that area, go to the local museums. If you go up to Denali, go into the local museum there. If you're at Creswick, go into there. And if you're lucky enough, you might get an old-timer there that's helping out in the museum. And, yeah, they like to share their information. So, yeah, I've got on my list pubs. Look, you can learn a lot at pubs, especially as the night goes on, when they start drinking a few more cans. Yeah, it's probably not that they want to, it's probably that they can't help themselves. So, yeah, go to pubs, caravan parks. There's people generally in caravan parks that are willing to help out too in there. You know, I know in WA they'll have a big campfire and they sit around the campfire at night and talk about, you know, what they've found and that. But just be a little bit careful yourself, because you don't want to say, oh, I've just found a big patch, you know, I got 10 ounces off that patch, and because people unfortunately will follow you the next morning, and yeah, that's unfortunately what they do. Facebook, as you know, you learn stuff off that. So yeah. Look, I'd have to say the biggest downfall in some prospectors is their ego. They just can't help themselves to tell people what they found, and it's not. Yeah, it's just one of them things that they can't help themselves, and I don't know if it's they like to brag or they like to help, but you can decide that for yourself. And I had on my note here, books and maps. Look, you can buy Doug Stone maps and books. You can buy the John Tully maps and books. Steve Barham is another one, and there's lots of books out there. I was lucky enough that when I got an interest in gold back in the 80s, any book that was related to gold, I bought. And I've got a good library of books. It's just a matter of getting the time to actually read up on some of them spots. Now, I know when I got books and maps, I was going through there and I was marking spots where the big nuggets were found, and, you know, I was going out to them spots. Now, where the big nuggets were found, yeah, there might be another one there, but you've got to remember the big nuggets are gone, and you're better off to go and work new ground. You might come home with nothing, but you're going to come, if you find a big nugget, you're going to come home with something. But it is hard, I know, when you spend $5,000 or $4,000 on a detector, you come home and your wife says, oh, what'd you find? And you say, oh, I found nothing, you know, and she'll say, oh, that was a waste of money. I suppose it's the old fishing stories, you know, the boys go out fishing and they call into the fish and chip shop and buy a fish to take home to their wife. And look, I remember when we had a shop in Clunes there, I remember a bloke called into the shop one Sunday night and he said, I want to buy a nugget worth $300. And I said to him, oh, that's a pretty one there in the showcase. He said, no, it's too clean. I want a dirty one. And I knew what he was up to, but you got to do what you got to do. Another thing is, like I said, you can't beat local knowledge, and that's where, you know, your local detecting shop, pubs, caravan parks, yeah, that you can't beat local knowledge. Any more questions over there?
My rumours that Minelab are releasing a new GPS
Okay,
detector.
I knew it. There'd have to be someone, yeah. Someone's asked the question, is Minelab releasing a new detector? Look, I'd have to say that Minelab are working on new detectors all the time. And as far as a new detector out, I know on Facebook there's lots of rumours, but there are only rumours. I haven't heard anything from Minelab that they're bringing out a new machine. Look, but yeah, there's always rumours. But like I said, Minelab or any detect in place, they're always working on new machines. They have to. They just can't bring out a new machine tomorrow. It takes, I think they said that 7,000, it took them 5 years in the making. So, you know, like I said, they're working on new machines all the time. Any other questions? Look, I know I'm not going to get to answer all the questions tonight, guys, but if I've got time, I'll try to.
What does a fully catered tour include?
A fully catered tour, someone has asked the question, what does that include? An all-inclusive tour. You fly to Perth. Look, we do get a lot of internationals on that tour. So basically, you fly to Perth, then we charter a plane, and that plane will take you to the destination. Then we pick you up, and it's all transport, all food, accommodation, tuition, spots. Basically, all you need to do is turn up with your bag and some clothes, and everything is supplied. Detectors, yeah, everything is supplied. Any more?
Reading the ground? How do you read the ground?
Reading the ground. Look, each area can be different. It's like, I suppose, if I go out and buy a race car and enter Bathurst, I want to win, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to win. And it's the same as a detector. You buy a detector, there's a lot of learning involved. And how to read the ground, each spots have different, I suppose I call them signs. There's different things that I look for. And I'll give you an example. Through Creswick, which is just north of Ballarat, one thing I look for in that area is it's a reddy, orangey clay. And I seem to find a lot of smaller bits of gold in that type of ground. And look, it is a very large area. Basically, it goes from Creswick back to Ballarat. But when I take me tours out around the Creswick area, I generally take them onto them surfaced areas, which is that orangey red clay. And on the tours, we're running, generally running 2300s because I know that people are going to find gold with them. And I'll generally go to an area where there is that nice orangey red clay. And you might look at that clay and think, oh, there's no gravel or stones on top of it, but clay is like a magnet to the gold. And it will stick in that clay. And yeah, look, the old timers didn't have detectors. I think if they had detectors back then, there wouldn't be a lot of gold left for us. But there was a spot that I took a tour group to up from Slatey Creek, and we pulled up right on the edge of the road. Some of you will probably be thinking, where is this spot? And you'll probably work it out. But it was right on the edge of the road. And I said, start detecting from the edge of the road. There's a lot of people make the mistake. They'll pull up, they'll look at a hill, 200-300 metres away, and they'll think, gee, that ground looks good up there. Then they get to there and they'll look at another hill over further. Just start detecting from the obvious, which is basically next to the car. And you've all heard of big nuggets being found where someone's jumped out the car, turned on the machine and found them. But this particular spot, I pulled up the bus on the edge of the road. I had 3 people detecting that day. Anyway, they were coming back for lunch. I said, it's time for lunch, guys. And one bloke was walking down the track and he was only probably 5 metres, 10 metres away from the bus. And he got a noise and I said, oh, that sounds all right. Nice little subtle noise. Anyway, we walked across to him and he'd scraped the ground by then. And as I walked across, I could see the little nugget on the ground. And I said, there it is there. I pointed it out to him and he picked it up. And I said, now go back over your hole in the clay. He went back over it, he got another one and another one. I think he ended up with 22 pieces out of a hole that was only probably 10 inches down by probably 6 inches wide. So that was a little pocket where the gold had actually dropped into. So, yeah. And I remember he said to me, he said, oh, shit, this is easy. And he was a first timer. I said, that's the first time it's happened on my tour here where someone has got that many pieces out of one hole. And I remember he hired the detector, went back, and I think he got a couple of more pieces in that area. So, so to answer your question, different spots, I look for different things. So that's around the Creswick area, I look for that orangey red clay. But if I went up to Avoca Way, I might be looking for a red clay up there, or some of the gold is in what they call pipe clay. Now, pipe clay is a white clay, and you'll get gold within that. And that's generally in old creek systems and the miners have dug down, they've thrown it out, but you get gold within that clay. Other areas, I might go across to Beaufort, and I get a lot of gold in piles of washed gravel where the old timers have had their cradle. They've cradled the gold, they've thrown their dirt and gravel out, but they didn't know what they were doing, and they were throwing out rocks with little bits of gold attached to it. And look, it's no different nowadays. Like, you would be surprised how much gold you actually find in other people's holes. They get a noise, they can't find it, they walk away, and then someone with a little bit more experience will come along and I'll say, oh, that's got a little bit more depth to it, or that sounds okay. They'll spend a bit of time there, they'll find the gold, and it happens a lot. The largest I've ever found, it was in WA. I remember I was detecting, I looked up in front, someone had dug a hole, hadn't filled it in, it was a fairly large pile of dirt. I walked up and there was a half-ounce piece sitting on the dirt that I don't know how they've missed it, because a half-ouncer would scream on any detector. So the only thing I can put it down to was maybe they've dug a rusty nail, probably swore, didn't fill their hole in, walked away, didn't go over their dirt. And, yeah, I walked up to it, picked it up, said thank you very much, filled the hole in and kept detecting. And, like I said, there's a lot of gold. Yeah, if you get a noise, just take the time looking for it. You've spent all that time looking for a noise. Take a little bit of time trying to find that noise. Now, it can be a little bit hard when you get a small bit of gold, and I suppose that little bit of gold is sitting flat and you get a good noise, but when you've dug it out of the hole and it turns onto its edge, it can get a little bit harder to find. And generally I'll just move the dirt around until I get that noise back and then find it. You know, when you're trying to find a little pinhead-sized bit of gold, and then the Minelab SDC 2300s are good at finding very small little bits of gold. They can take some finding, and they might take you 10 minutes to find it, but it's it's like finding, you know, $8 on the ground. You're not going to leave a $2 coin on the ground. So just take the time, and all the little nuggets add up. And look, I remember a prospector once said to me, he said, Darren, if you find the small nuggets, sooner or later you'll find a big one. And it's so true, so true. But yeah, different grounds, different areas. Yeah, like when you've been doing it a long time, like you can drive along and you think, oh, gee, that area looks good. And you get out and, yeah, you'll find gold. But I suppose when you haven't been doing it that long, you've got to experience where you found gold. And when you find a bit of gold, just stop detecting, have a look at the ground around the area, have a look what you found it in, what sort of dirt it's associated with, and then next time you might be in an area and you might see a spot of ground that, oh, that's right, I found gold in that type of ground, and go over there and try it. I suppose your brain's like a big computer and it's taking in information all the time. Now, when I'm out on tours, one thing I say to my group is, look, even though I've been detecting 40 years, I'll admit I still don't know everything about gold, because you're still learning all the time. And I think if I said to you guys, yeah, look, I know it all, I think I'd be bullshitting, it'd be ego taking over. So you're learning all the time. And yeah. Any more questions?
What's your favourite equipment to use?
Oh, what's my favourite equipment to use? And I get that question asked a lot in the shop. They'll say, oh, what's your favourite detector? I'm lucky. I've got a 7000. I've got a 5000. I've got a 45. I've got a 2300. And I will pick, if I've got all the machines in the car and I'm driving along and I see, say, a patch of red orangey clay around Creswick surfaced area, I know that is suited for the 2300. So I'll grab the 2300. If I'm in WA and I'm looking at new ground, I know nothing about that spot, I don't even know if there's gold in that spot, I will swing a 5000, say, with a 19-inch Evo, or just a large coil. For me, with a large coil, it's not about trying to get nuggets down deeper, it's about covering more ground, especially on new ground. Then when I get a piece of gold, then I will slow down and work that area properly. If I'm finding, say, on that patch of gold, a lot of smaller pieces, I might run the 23 over it. When I think I've finished that patch, I would probably run the 7000 over it with the 19-inch coil, because I don't want to go back the next year and find that someone has dug a 3-foot hole in new ground, because I know what it's going to be. And yeah, so yeah, look, I'm lucky. Look, and I'd have to say that a lot of full-time prospectors that are just detecting probably would have two machines. They might have a 7000 and a 23, or a 23 and a 500. But I know you've got to start somewhere. And look, the Gold Monster isn't a bad machine for the price if you know how to use it. And we get a lot of people that are bought machines elsewhere that don't get any training on them, and they don't know how to use them. They come into the shop and they say, Darren, can you show me how to use that machine? And yeah, I'll help them out, because when I'm on tour, this might sound a bit funny, but I get more enjoyment out of people finding gold probably than what I do nowadays. Like when someone finds their first nugget, it's really exciting for them and me. And yeah, it's yeah. So yeah, look, like I said, a good gold machine starts off roughly $1,099, and they go up to $9,500. But yeah, it's just yeah, like I said earlier on, buy the best machine that you can afford. So, yeah. Question time.
Is it worthwhile doing full-time prospecting? This will be the last question.
Yeah. Yeah, this will be the last question before I go into the mindset. And is it worth going full-time on the gold? Look, like I said earlier on, there's a lot to learn. If you're relying on the gold, I'd probably say not. If you're retired and you want to make a few extra dollars, I'd say yes. But it takes a lot of learning to know what to look for. I can speed it up by coming out on a tour with WA or Victoria. But like I said earlier on, it's the same as buying a detector. Don't think you're going to find gold the first day, because like I said, it took me 6 months to find my first bit in 1980. You can be lucky. I remember hiring out a machine and a bloke found, I think it was a 28-ounce nugget first day out. It does happen. It's like buying a Tats Lotto. We all want to win first prize, but reality is, yeah, we might only win the smaller prizes, but we all want to win the big prizes. So that was the last question that I'll get to. I'll just quickly, how are we going for time?
It's nearly 8 o'clock.
Nearly 8 o'clock. Okay.
We've got some prizes.
We have got some prizes. And I think,
Show what it is again.
yeah, I have shown what they are. It's the gold pan, the map and the hat. I can't believe how the time's gone. I thought I was going to struggle to talk for 20 minutes, not an hour, but I suppose I did run late. Okay, the prize winners are Bart van Jayen, Dion Diaz, Dion, Adele Warrington, Peter Clark, Rhonda Wilson and Les Gallen. Can't read Leanne's writing. So well done, guys, the ones that won the prizes. Give us a ring tomorrow in the shop, and if you want to come and pick them up, or we'll send them out. Just quickly, I'm going to talk on one little thing very quickly, mindset. Go out there with a positive attitude. Look, I know blokes that wear lucky hats, lucky jocks, lucky socks, they've got a lucky pick, whatever works for you. If it works, if it helps you find more gold, wear the lucky jocks. Just to finish up, just a reminder that, just take the time to listen to what people are telling you. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of tonight, and hopefully next time, which we'll be doing another one, I'll have this down pat and I won't be holding the phone out. So thanks, guys, for watching, and stay tuned for some more. Thanks, guys. Bye.